Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So announcements first, I have revamped my Patreon page and I've now included an intro video and it's going to give you all the details of the benefits, including advice for every single personality type that will be coming up very soon, and about how to capitalize on your strengths and to avoid the pitfalls associated with your personality. Link down below. You can check out the intro video. So today's topic is potentially going to be controversial, but as a YouTuber, it's actually very important to talk about things, even if you know that some people are not going to receive it well, because there's just no way that you can really make everybody happy, and also certain things just ought to be said, in my opinion. Otherwise, the important message is going to be lost. And today's topic is actually inspired by a cartoon that I posted on my YouTube IG account. So the account is where I post like video updates and things related to MBTI at personality story. So I posted this cartoon where this FJ type or NF type actually is talking to this NT type, and the NT creature says, "I want to change the world." And then the feeler type says, "Is it for the better?" And the NT creature kind of doesn't really reply. And so what it implies is that, typical to an MBTI stereotype, feelers are concerned with changing the world for the better, whereas thinkers or NT-types in this case are like more rational, cold-hearted, self-centered, not changing the world for the better, just changing the world for themselves and their own benefits. And today I'm going to talk about how I feel about this whole thing, like what I think. And obviously my answer is not really, because it depends, it depends on the individual. I gave a short answer on my IG accounts, but I'm going to elaborate on my reply. So my short response is regarding the level of healthiness of the personality type. So I personally think that every personality type has the potential for good or evil, and has the potential to use their functions for the better or for worse, depending on how healthy they are as an individual and depending on their own behavior. So it's more of actions speak. It really depends on your awareness of your own flaws. So what I mean is that, for an unhealthy NF type, for example, is prone to as much damage to the world as an unhealthy NT type. And the kind of damage might be different, but it's still bad. So an unhealthy NF type, for example, I would say generally speaking, tend to be very emotionally manipulative and prone to playing the victim. And that can be very, very harmful to relationships, close relationships, or to society at large. For example, an unhealthy INFP can cause a lot of problems in the close circle of people by constantly claiming victimhood. So thinking that everyone is out to get them, everyone's out there to abuse them, and kind of failing to realize that they are also being rude to others, or they are also being abusive to others. So not being aware, of times when they themselves might be antagonistic. And victim mentality is actually very harmful to both yourself and others, because firstly, you are not aware of how you come across to others, and secondly, you are unable to ever improve because you always think that you are the victim, and that can really stunt your personal and emotional growth. And this is actually more common among feeler types, I would say, because feeling types tend to be more sensitive and things can hurt us a lot longer. And so, if an NF type become toxic, right? If an NF type hold on to a lot of grudges, it can actually lead to an explosion. So I'm sure you have heard of, INFJ rage, or ANFJ, pent up anger, or, ENFP suddenly becoming very critical. It's all because, if you are an unhealthy NF type and you have been kind of bottling things up for quite a while, your anger is not going to go away, right? It's going to be like submerged somewhere, and it's going to emerge in like a latent way where you have like your tertiary and inferior functions, and they're going to come up, typically in very aggressive ways, and sometimes it can shock people around you, things like that. And unhealthy NF type is also prone to being emotionally manipulative, in a sense of kind of using emotions to get people to do things that you want. And NFs, not saying just NFs, but just feeler types in general, are better at doing this than thinker types, because of the general reason that their feeling function is stronger. So, you can actually get people to do something for you by getting them to feel bad for you through like self-pity, or through some kind of, manipulation where you make them feel like they are somehow responsible for your situation when they are not. And obviously that is not going to lead to positive impact on the world. So this just goes to show, it's not really about your type per se, it's more about how you use your functions, and how healthy you are as an individual, like how aware are you of your own flaws, how aware of you of the way that you relate to others. And obviously I'm not saying that NTs are perfect either, because unhealthy NTs obviously can also do a lot of damage to the world, right? Unhealthy NTs can be overly critical, can steamroll over others in arguments, can want to play like the dictator role. I'm sure you have heard of that stereotype of ENTJs, for example, being the CEO, like disregarding other people's opinions, kind of sitting on a high horse, maybe criticizing the employees too much and leading to them leaving the company, things like that. Or or maybe an ENTP being overly confident and sometimes not listening to other people's like opinions. Or an INTJ maybe being a little too exploitative in their business and disregarding other people's interests, and so on and so forth, right? So the more important thing when it comes to impacting the world positively, okay, first of all, it is very subjective. So some people may think doing this is going to impact the world positively, other people think doing that might be better, right? But I think as a general statement, I would say that healthier types are more likely to impact the world positively than unhealthier types. And what I mean is that if you are more aware of your own flaws, if you're more willing to work on them, if you're more willing to kind of make yourself a more balanced individual, then it is more likely that you would impact the world more positively as a result. And again, I'm going to use some examples here to showcase what I mean by that. So for example, if you are an NF and you want to change the world for the better, if you're just going to use your first two functions, okay, that is actually a very unbalanced, like not so holistic way of looking at the world, right? So for example, if you're an ENFJ and you only use extroverted feeling and introverted intuition most of the time, then you're going to miss out, right? You're going to miss out on your extroverted sensing and your introverted thinking and the value that they can bring to your perception of the world. So especially when it comes to inferior function, right? TI is about introverted thinking, it's about logic. If you are going to look at a problem in the world and attempt to solve it only through feelings, I don't think it's going to work very well, because firstly you need to know how do you find a solution. You can't just only feel empathy and stop there, you know what I mean? You have to think about how do you solve the problem, and that itself actually requires your TI to step in, right? And a lot of the times when people are saying, NFs impact the world positively, and NTs might be more like self-centered and so on, they are kind of putting some functions on a pedestal. They're kind of saying that the feeling function is better than the thinking function. You see what I mean? Like they're kind of seeing that as, oh, the feeling function is actually better in terms of molding the world, in terms of like improving the world, but they fail to notice that we actually have all 4 functions as our main function stack, and we all use them. It just depends on how we use them. And as a feeler, okay, as an intuitive feeler, if you're only going to use or capitalize on your intuition and your feelings and neglect your thinking functions, it is unlikely that you can make a lasting positive impact on the world, because the thinking functions are the ones that can help you to know what to improve on and to kind of analyze like, oh, is my method of improving the world actually going to be good for the world? You know what I mean? Because just because you feel that something is going to benefit the world doesn't mean that it actually is going to benefit the world. Like, you still have to test it out, right? You still have to analyze like, is this solution the best solution? That's when TI comes in for NFJs. Like looking at different arguments and thinking about, is this going to be the best solution for the problem? Because if you don't think about it logically and you just go by your feelings, chances are you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And if these are like huge mistakes, you're going to be impacting thousands of people if you don't think things through and you only act on your feelings. The repercussions might be immeasurable. And the same for NFPs, right? If you are only thinking about how you want to benefit the world and through your introverted feeling and through your intuition, then what about the extroverted thinking part, right? Like how you're going to execute. Because execution is really like a lot of your plan. It's about execution. If you have a very good idea, or you think you have a very good idea that can solve all the world problems, but the execution is poor, then you may actually do more harm than good. Okay, truth be told, you may actually end up harming people's lives, end up having a lot of more problems than you actually imagine, because the execution part is the part where you need to work on. You need to know how to do certain things in order to achieve the result that you want. And this is something that NTJs are good at. That's why you need balance. I would actually advise for NFJs to hang out more with TP types if you are weak in TI, and for, NFPs to hang out with more TJ types if you are poor at TE, because you need to be developed in order to, look at the world in a more holistic way and to really solve problems in a way that can benefit the world in tangible ways. And now moving on to the NTs. So NTs are not perfect either, obviously. NT types may want to, grow their businesses. They might want to bring profits. I mean, these are just stereotypes here. Obviously, NT types can also want to bring change to the world, right? Like Steve Jobs, I believe he's an NT type, and he wants to revolutionize the world with his products, right? And NT types cannot do without feelings either, because if you know from statistics, the reason why a good employee wants to leave a company, right? Most of the time it's not because of the job itself. Most of the time it's because of the connections that they make in the company. They may not like their boss, or they may not like the people they're working with, or their supervisor, and mainly it's because the supervisor may be unappreciative or harsh, or just not able to have a very encouraging atmosphere. So atmospheres in companies are actually very crucial for the companies to grow. And this is what NT types need to know, because NF types are better at the feeling department, right? NF types are better at meeting people's emotional needs than NT types in general. So what I'm trying to say, to wrap it up, is that we cannot really do without our thinking or feeling functions. So just thinking about how, oh, our type is like going to benefit the world so positively because we are NFs, or because we are NTs, because we are stronger at our intuition and thinking functions, or we are stronger at our intuition and feeling functions, is not really going to bring about the best change, because you are neglecting a very important part, which is the fact that you actually need both in order to do something well. And this takes time, it takes a lot of practice and maturity. But ultimately, I would say that, when an NF or NT type is well developed, is mature, and is able to see the good in other types, that's when they can make the best impact on the world. And that's my thoughts on this topic. My next video is going to be about my thoughts on introverted feeling as an INFJ, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. I'll see you soon. Bye.